Hello, hello. My name is Mickey Buey, and my presentation for Elevate's 2020 GDC Relief Fund Accelerator is called Milestone Mentors Meetings Oh My. This is a postmortem on how to better prep and use Elevate's programs. Once again, my name is Mickey Buey, and I'm the producer for Miscellaneum. And my background is actually primarily in AAA as well as animation studios. So I've done stints at EA, Ubisoft, as well as IO. And this has been a lot of firsts for me. So within Elevate's program, it was my first time that I've ever worked part-time on a game project. I work about 10 hours a week with Miscellaneum. This was also the first time I've been working with a smaller, more indie development type of game and studio. And this has also been my first time working in Accelerator. So a little bit about Miscellaneum is that Miscellaneum is a studio based in Montreal. It is Latif's brainchild, and he is our game director, as well as our writer, as well as the game artist, as well as our musician. He brings in Fatima, who's coming in as our lead game designer, as well as Clayton, who's coming in as our gameplay programmer. He also has his co-founder, Isabel. And Isabel, Francis, myself, and Vid, and Emily come in as part-time people that work either per task or on smaller contracts than Fatima and Clayton. So Fatima, Clayton, and Latif were all our core Elevate team members, and then all of us were kind of on the background supporting. So one thing is that we worked on Distraction Machine. This is the project that we came in with. A little bit about the project is that it is a cycle-punk music puzzle game set in a post-zombie apocalypse in Montreal. This is based on a comic book series that Latif has already made, as well as it uses a lot of instruments that he creates within real life using upcycled materials as well as bicycle parts. And what happens within the game is that you get to create these instruments and create different music to kind of ward off zombies and kind of help your troops in different capacities. So a little bit on how Elevate worked. So I started in September 2020. And Elevate also ran, pretty much started the week after I did, and it ran from September to December. I think it's something important to note is that our project started in April, and what we had is a lot of game design documentation that was being built in the background while we applied for Elevate. And the way that Elevate works is that you get 3 milestones. So you have a milestone in October, as well as a Milestone 2 in November, Milestone 3 in December, and then sadly the program ends. If I were to describe how every single milestone felt, I think it felt very differently. The first milestone, I think we're getting used to the program. And in addition, it relied on a lot of stuff that we actually already had. So it relied on a lot of documentation, a lot of company and studio values. So these are things that Latif already has from his previous projects. Milestone 2 definitely started to feel a little bit of the crunch of Elevate. And that's when we were kind of getting more into the rhythm and learning kind of how to work within this program, how to work with each other. All of us are new working with one another. And then on Milestone 3, we kind of got back into a little bit of a rhythm, and that's kind of what I want to focus on. I want to focus on what it felt like going into Milestone 2, and then also going into Milestone 3, and kind of what happened and what we changed, and hopefully what you guys can learn if you want to go into a program like Code Coven. So in Milestone 2, it covers November to December. It started in November 2nd and pretty much wrapped November 18th was our Milestone 2 review, as well as our Milestone 3 kickoff was November 30th, and by the time we had a Milestone 3 review, it was December 10th. So overall, Milestone 2 retrospective definitely brought up how, at its core, we felt like we worked the same way that we worked for Milestone 1. And we just repeated and copy and pasted exactly kind of how we were working with Elevate and just did that the same. This came down to I felt like I didn't fully grasp Elevate's program, as well as what role the mentor had and what expectations they had. And I also started to find it really difficult to formulate milestone goals. And we also had a little bit of an inconsistent build review. We would oftentimes individually review the build, but we wouldn't review it as a team. And we also had a little bit unclear deliveries and schedule from myself. So to kind of cover Elevate's expectations. One, so you get to define your own milestone and deliverables, but Elevate will oftentimes come in with guidance as well as requirements and deliveries that you have to give. So for example, our milestone 1 was a heavily pre-production and documentation milestone, so a lot of that they asked for explicitly. You also get to play test about a dozen other teams, and you get to play test their games, as well as you get to attend seminars and workshops that Elevate does. Do keep in mind that this will sometimes take up about 30 to 40% of your workload for the week. And so you just need to kind of keep that into account when you're coming up with tasks and plans and projects. Something else is that we have a new mentor for each milestone, and every single mentor you get will have a different background and different experiences and be able to approach their mentorship differently. So to kind of go over the mentor expectations. So our first mentor got a lot of the game design document. And what they wanted was just review, as well as kind of come in as an editorial type figure. And they explicitly asked for more of a casual type of relationship, a little bit more of a back and forth. So what we did is we just copy and pasted that right into Mentor 2. We did not take into account that Mentor 2 had a plethora of experience working within indie game development, and then was able to kind of really recreate and expect that publisher type of role play that Elevate directed. And it was something that we didn't necessarily anticipate or expect, and we wanted to change for Milestone 3. So Milestone 3, we had a different mentor. This person also came in with not a lot of publishing experience. He came in with a AAA background and more of a design. So something that he really wanted to do was just go back and forth about us, about us and with us, about the project, and also where we're at within the prototype. So I think one of the key things that you need to learn, that we've learned from Milestone 3, is that you have to meet your mentor first. This was really simple because all you had to do was send off a kickoff email as well as schedule a meeting. So we looked up each of our mentors on LinkedIn, and we got to introduce our team members as well as go over everyone's roles. We were also able to highlight the fact that all of us lived in different time zones and that we had different hours and different schedules. One thing we were able to give is a little bit of a project summary and short documentation on just kind of how the game will run. And we were able to give a milestone plan and a little project focus on what we want to end with Elevate. We were also able to highlight any sort of risks, as well as the current temperature and headspace of the team. I think one of the key things that came out of this meeting was that we got to go over the mentors' expectations, Elevate's expectations, as well as our team internally and what we expected. And we got to ask kind of the question of, what is our team missing right now? And how can we use our mentor to best help our team? Because I think every single mentor that we met wants to help us. And if you learn to work with them, you can learn so many different things within a really short period of time. So I think one lesson that I've learned is that you have to build a flexible infrastructure. This is something that I've definitely taken for granted working in AAA studios, is that a lot of processes and a lot of communication already exists. So team communication, because Elevate has a separate Slack channel and separate communication, we also had our larger team. So we wanted to make sure the connection between what Elevate was giving us, and then also to make sure that that matched what we were telling our team, which meant that we had to really be on top of Slack and make sure that everything was copy and pasted over. Everything was also given tasks within ClipApp, so we weren't missing documentation, and we weren't missing tasks that Elevate needed. Something that I've also taken for granted is that every single studio that I've worked at had some sort of documentation system in place. We were working off of Google Drive at the time, which meant that oftentimes people were working on documents and none of us really knew where they lived, because the folder structure got interpreted 4 different ways depending on who you were talking to. So one thing that we did is that we just started from the ground up again. We got Notion, which is essentially Confluence for hipsters. Got recommended from us for Mentor 2. Thank you. We really enjoyed it. We started a free trial for Milestone 3, ended up keeping it for the rest of the project. And it's really helped us keep everything in the same page. Everyone has the same view, as well as it's a lot easier to just edit things in real time. Something that we've also done is that we embrace the time box. This allowed us to be a little bit more flexible. At the beginning, we were doing more formal sprints, but because we weren't able to really figure out Elevate's schedule until about later on, we wanted to make sure that we could prioritize Elevate. So we gave everyone just a general time box of what can they do in the week, and also how long individual tasks would take them. And it just allowed us to be a little bit more flexible without necessarily going into chasing after Jira tickets. Something that we wanted to do is that we prioritize build reviews over stand-ups. So from the get-go, the team did not want daily stand-ups. We are working with a limited amount of time. So when we do have meetings, we want to make sure that they're quick and efficient as possible, and that we get the most out of them. So what instead we have is 2 team meetings. We have a meeting on Monday as well as Thursday. This was set up prior to me starting as well. And what we did instead was, instead of meeting on Monday and Thursday, on Thursday we had a build review. So what we did is that we had Fatima load up the latest build, and we had Clayton record it, and he was able to note any sort of like bugs and crashes as well as notes, and we were able to come up with priorities of tasks for the upcoming week, as well as we were able to come up with known issues and bugs that already exist within the game. So this allowed 2 things to happen. Clayton was given Thursday and Friday to bug fix the build, and we were also explicitly able to give a build delivery for Friday to our mentor. This allowed for a better mentor experience, and I think also was able to replicate a little bit of that publisher type of role play that Elevate wanted. So we were able to do that, and I was able to generate a full report of what the team worked on as well as what known issues already existed, and we were able to also talk about what we planned for the following week. So in summary, I would definitely say do any program that Code Coven does. I think they're great. I think it's definitely a community that I really needed at that time. And I would say understand Elevate. I would really say that Elevate takes time, but if you use that time well, your game will develop at an alarmingly fast rate. And I would also say make the most out of your mentor. Every single mentor will come in with a radically different experience and a radically different approach. And if you learn to work with them and you really learn to kind of tap into all that knowledge, you can get a lot out of it. I would also say build some flexible processes. I like to say like build a practice, but don't necessarily enforce it. If something's not working with your team, don't necessarily force it because it feels like the proper game dev thing to do. And if something works better, go with that. So overall, I hope this helps anyone that's interested in joining Code Coven or participating in a program like Elevate. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. And so hope this helps. Thank you so much.